All right, so Patriots taking on the Bills for the third time, and quite frankly, I'm not paying much attention to the first time these two teams played each other. I'm kind of just throwing that tape out. Listen, there's some small nuggets you can learn from there, but the weather was so odd, I'm just kind of throwing that out altogether. However, I do think there's some stuff we can learn from the second game, a lot of stuff we can learn from the second game. So that's what the majority of this video is going to be focused on, is breaking down that second game they played against each other just a couple of weeks ago, and kind of talking about how I assume that they will, learn from that game, and what should we expect to see the next time these two teams play. So first, let's just look at the box score, and you can see that, Buffalo did have a pretty good job, pretty good handle on moving the ball down the field in this one. I mean, the total yards 428 to just 288. The passing yards way in Buffalo's favor, over double in Buffalo's favor. Rushing yards a slight edge to the New England Patriots, and then yards per play is going to be a big significant edge to Buffalo. One other interesting thing, and the reason why I wanted to include it, the third down and fourth down efficiency in this one. Buffalo 500 at third downs, and then went 3 for 4 on fourth downs, whereas New England 1 for 10 on third downs, although they did go 5 for 6 on fourth downs. So this is interesting to me, this is the PFF grades of that game. So the second time these two teams played each other, where did they end up grade-wise in that matchup? You look at the top of the list for New England, you see like Shaq Mason, Damian Harris, a running back, and then Trent Brown, Michael Onwenu. So you have some offensive linemen there, and even Jacoby Myers and Kendrick Bourne with solid grades themselves. All the way at the bottom of the list is Mac Jones. This was not a great day from Mac Jones. He run blocked decently apparently, because he has a 60 grade there, but not his best day throwing the football, and we'll get into that once we get into the film section. But again, a couple other notes, I guess, like N'Keal Harry, Jonnu Smith, but really the Mac Jones one is the interesting negative for me. You look over towards Buffalo's grades, and at the top you see, I see AJ Klein, who didn't have a ton of snaps, but had 19. He did have some sort of impact in this one. Micah Hyde, Levi Wallace with some good grades here. But you also, going towards the bottom, did see some negative grades, specifically some defensive linemen and front seven guys, like Tremaine Edmonds, who I think is a good player. He had a bad grade in this one. So what happened there? First, let's just look at the box score stats of the offense. You see Mac Jones' numbers are awful. Should mention, one of these interceptions is going to be sort of at the end of the game, kind of just, basically throwing up a Hail Mary, not exactly, but essentially, and that got intercepted. So I don't really blame him for that one. But still, even without that, not a great statistical day. Under 5 yards per attempt. No touchdown passes. The running game was effective. Damian Harris had 103 yards on just 18 carries and 3 touchdowns of his own. But all right, let's jump into the film. Let's jump into some positives. I do think New England should be able to run the ball effectively in this one. Obviously, they beat Buffalo only running the ball, essentially, other than 3 plays, 2 of which were essentially screen passes. So they can run the ball effectively against Buffalo. We've seen it happen. You see something like this where they're even getting fullbacks involved, which I like. I think fullbacks can be really effective in the rushing game. Even a play like this where you're actually going to see a Buffalo player, Matt Milano, do a good job of taking out the fullback on that play. It's still a solid run, and New England can run the ball effectively. They should have success running the ball in this football game. So that's a good thing, right? They're probably going to want to run the ball a lot, so if you're running the ball well, that's going to help you. Now, I want to talk about some stuff like this. This is stuff I saw when breaking down Mac Jones' tape, and we saw Mac Jones having a really bad PFF grade. The tape backs it up. This was not a great Mac Jones day. It just wasn't. This play was basically right out of the Baker Mayfield handbook, quite frankly. And by that I mean just making a decision that makes me wonder why you did that. Listen, Mac Jones is a rookie. He doesn't make perfect decisions 100% of the time. I mean, veterans don't, but especially rookies are going to make some mistakes. There's no way to look at this other than a mistake. And this is something that New England's going to try against Buffalo, where Buffalo's in zone coverage, and they have a concept designed to beat zone coverage. You have a deep route that can push the safety deep, and then you have a receiver running over the middle. The over the middle route is Jones's first read on this play. look at how when Jones, runs the play action, he's going to roll out a little bit. The over the middle route is open, and Jones should, he might not want to make this throw because, okay, there is a corner who could try to run in and make a play, but I think this is open enough you can make this throw. I do. That's my opinion on this. The deep route is just not open. However, I do actually see why Jones makes this read, so maybe I was being too hard on him when I said it's just a Baker Mayfield, what are you doing type throw, because that's not exactly true. The safety did kind of crash over towards the middle, or over towards the right, maybe too far, but the issue is a corner read this play and dropped back, and Jones just didn't notice that. Although I also would say, if the first read is open, take the first read, but Jones thinks that there's a read that's more open, that's why he's making this decision. He's going to throw it deep, and this one should have been intercepted. He got away with one. Probably won't get away with that in the playoffs. Got to be better than that. I think that's fair to say. Got to be better than that. Also, stuff like this, which was surprising, where what's going to happen here is it's zone coverage. And this route you see on the screen, okay, by itself, whatever, usually this stuff doesn't work. But what's notable about it, against this type of coverage, it would typically just be running straight into a safety. But what's interesting about this one is it's a flea flicker. So you're trying to get the safety to move in, and then you can throw over the top. That's why this play actually could work. Look, Jones is going to run a play action, he's going to hand it off and then get the ball back. And so then at this point, you do have an opportunity to make this throw, and Jones should make this throw. Instead, he's going to just try and get, a little bit more time, but he didn't really need that. He eventually just flips it, and that actually ended up working out, so we got a decent amount of yards there. But still, I like to see him just make a little bit quicker decision, make a little bit better decisions. I think some people might fight me on that and say, there was a little bit of pressure. It wasn't the easiest throw to make. I think you got to make those throws if you're going to beat Buffalo. You're going to have to get the chunk plays. I think that's a great way to do it. I would have liked to see him make that throw. I would have. There was also something like this. This isn't that big of a deal, but it is, again, it's something that was on tape the first time these two teams played each other. It's zone coverage. You're going to have a player who's going to get into a gap in coverage, a route towards the top of the screen there. This is something that can work. Right when this play begins, the Patriots offense does their job. They get a player open, and Jones just throws it too high right there. So that's kind of something we did see, and quite frankly, I'm kind of the school of thought of, well, this is good for New England, right? Because, okay, they made too many mistakes. Mac Jones had an uncharacteristically bad day. He probably won't have that happen the third time these two teams play each other. So that alone, I think, is maybe an advantage in McCorkle's pocket there. However, this play is a good counter argument for that, where it's going to be a play action. You have a receiver running over the middle. You're going to get linebackers out of position. There will be a small window that you can try to fit this ball through. And this is what New England, like I said, it's what they're going to have to do against Buffalo in this game. New England is going to run the football a decent amount, and then when you want to throw the football, or, when you have to throw the football, this can be ways to do it. Play action should allow you to get some chunk plays, but watch what happens on this one. Jones is going to run this play action, and you see that, okay, you see how this is working. You see the tight window that he can try and fit it through, but this is a tight window, and Jones might have to make some really good throws in this one. In fact, he will have to make some really good throws in this one if New England is going to win. Look, this throw is going to get tipped a couple of times and eventually intercepted. Was that kind of fluky that it turned into an interception? Sure, but these plays also do happen when you go up against this type of coverage and run this type of concept. And that's why I find this to be interesting. And that's, I think, the unique argument against New England and against Mac Jones. So I'm not saying that Mac Jones won't be able to make these throws. To some degree, he will be able to. He's had a really good rookie season. I think I have plenty of confidence that he can do stuff like this and run an offense pretty well. The question is just how well. I think that's a fair question to ask. Because, New England was able to do stuff like this and have some consistency where, again, zone coverage, and it's going to run a quick zone buster. It's nothing too crazy, but this stuff can work. Watch. Jones takes the snap. He is going to throw this one. You see that I've circled right there. There is a player who is open on this play. Jones reads it. He hits him. You're able to pick up some yards right there. They can run a methodical offense, and that's what New England is going to have to do. That's what they're going to try and do, is this Tom Brady run a methodical offense style. The issue is you just can't make mistakes. It's not easy to run 12-play drives, and even though Josh McDaniels is great at dialing up plays to make it easier, and Mac Jones does a really good job of this little stuff, things can go wrong. Watch this play where you're going to see it's zone coverage. There is a halfback open underneath, and he just drops the football. So, again, it's not always one guy, but several guys can make mistakes. It's just hard to play a perfectly clean brand of football, even with Bill Belichick as your head coach. Now, Bill Belichick makes it easier, right? Because his teams tend to do a better job than most, but they still can happen. Mistakes can still happen, and you have to avoid those if you're going to run this methodical style offense that I think that they will. Now, going over to this play, because, I mean, listen, you can tell by my tone, I may be more bearish on New England's offensive chances in this one. It's really just more so I think Buffalo has a good defense. That's really the way it is. Buffalo defends very well. Even without Tre'Davious White, they've defended very well. But something like this, it's going to be a, you see how they're blocking. It looks like it's going to be a rush to the right. That's how you're expecting this to be ran. And this is one of the things I like about New England is they're a team that runs a methodical offense, but they're good at it, and they call plays well for it. Because what would you expect to happen here? If you're, let's say, for example, you are one of those two Buffalo players. The second you see everyone blocking the way I showed them blocking on the screen, you're probably going to creep closer towards the bottom of the screen, creep closer towards, your left, which is the offense's right. So Jones is going to then, even fake as though he's going to his right, but flip it to Harris, who's going to the left, and you see how those two Buffalo players are out of position pretty severely, and now you're in a situation where you can block everybody. Harris gets the snap. Jonnu Smith doesn't make the best block in the world, but they're still able to get into the end zone for a touchdown due to the good schemed up play by McDaniels and by Belichick there. So stuff like that. Sure, you have to methodically move down the field, but you can do it, and you can do it well. And that's kind of the thing that I wouldn't be shocked if New England does. And also, there were stuff like this where, listen, Buffalo, they do have good coverage unit. They do defend very well. All of that stuff is very true. And again, I haven't talked a ton about the running game. The running game is going to be effective in a key way to victory for New England if they do end up winning here. But another way is a play like this, where it's man coverage. And when it's man coverage, you have receivers who are pretty good against, man coverage or zone coverage. This is not a team that is just completely out on receivers. Jacoby Myers and Kendrick Bourne, as I said, had really good grades in terms of PFF in this game. This is going to be a Jacoby Myers play. Watch what happens. Look, as you see, this is going to be a great piece of route running from Jacoby Myers. He gets wide open, Jones hits him, and you pick up a chunk play like that. So this can happen, and this can work. You can move the ball down the field, and at times they will. I do just have some concerns about if you're going to try to run double-digit plays on each one of your drives, you're not going to score on all of them. There's going to be some drives where things go wrong and things stall. That's just the way I think about it. And I think if that's their game plan, which I presume it will be, I think that does kind of favor Buffalo a little bit. So, all right, final prediction of this half of the ball. I am saying that, on the year, New England scores a very high amount of points per drive, 2.63 points per drive on the year. Buffalo gives up a very low 1.57 points per drive on the year. You won't see a much higher disparity between those two things in many games all year long. Although some would argue that the schedule that those two teams had were a little bit easier this year. They could beat up on bad teams. I'm not saying I agree or disagree, but that is an argument people say, is that, New England might have gotten a little bit inflated by being able to beat Jacksonville 50-10. Buffalo might have had their stats a little bit inflated by getting to play Davis Mills and blowing out the Texans there. But still, they're all NFL teams. It still is, impressive. New England scored 21 points on just 8 drives in the first real game. I mean, this is technically the second game, but by first game, I mean first time these two teams played each other when there's actual decent weather conditions, which is 2.6 points per drive. So even though I said all that negative stuff, the actual points scored were pretty solid, but a good chunk of that too was all the fourth down conversions, I think. Not to mention they, did not get held. They scored 3 touchdowns when they did score, but again, you could argue the flip side that that's credit to New England for punching it into the end zone. Regardless, my prediction is going to be 24 points in this game, but in an 11-possession game, which would be 2.2 points per drive. So I'm predicting Buffalo to play better this time than they played the first time. And my logic behind why I think Buffalo should defend pretty well in this one is, they defend well. And I think that this is kind of something that it's going to be difficult for New England to be able to consistently move the ball down the field. And for them to score more than 24 points, which is still, that's a good amount of points I'm projecting them to score against Buffalo. Again, I'm projecting 2.2 points per drive, and Buffalo gives up just 1.57 on the year. But I think for New England to do better than that, Mac Jones is going to just have to have a great game, and I don't know if I can I don't know if I'm going to bet on that, although I can see it happening. It's possible. But yeah, that's what I think. If you want to know who I have winning this game, you'll have to check out the second half of this two-part video series, where I will then go over and talk about the Bills' offense, how they should attack the Patriots' defense. In there, I will give my score for how much points I think the Bills will score, and then the final score prediction. So be on the lookout for that. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.